Alright, so today we're going to be talking about why Pokemon Sun and Moon, and, well, not just Sun and Moon, but Pokemon Go is essentially not really doing so good, but somehow it's still managed, and I mean, I'll be honest, even I didn't even know this until recently. It managed to make over $1 billion in a net worth. So the question is, how is it that the company that made, I can't remember off the top of my head what their name is. I know it starts with an N though. It wasn't Nintendo. But reasons to believe why Pokemon Go isn't really utilizing its capabilities like people would like to see it. Why is Pokemon Go failing? And I'm going to give you 10 reasons why. Even though despite, now bear with me here, I understand that, you know, it still made $1 billion, which again, that's crazy, but why is it not doing as well as it should be? Well, number one was the people that originally created the game didn't really want to keep it going like the Pokemon games did. Well, at least not as much anyways. They said that they were just going to, you know, it just started off as a fun project at first. And, you know, it seemed like a cool concept at first. But then once they really started getting, like, all the Pokemon fans and all that, like, I mean, it was bigger than they intended it to be. Especially $1 billion. It's like, which is weird because, you know, did Nintendo authorize them to do that? Like, I mean, okay, yeah, it's an app somebody else made, but I mean, technically speaking, didn't Nintendo try to sue them at one point because they made so much money off it? I mean, I'm just kind of confused on this whole thing because I never really followed Pokemon Go like a lot of other people did. I just kind of, like, to me, when I heard of Pokemon Go, it seemed like a cool concept, but it wasn't really the kind of game that, you know, I played with a lot of people. So it was, I mean, I personally prefer the original games over it, and I think you could put more hours in that. The problem with the Pokemon issue that I had with Pokemon Go was that, you know, it's, you know, you really don't get much, like, of an option compared to the original games. I mean, you don't have to just run around, and, you know, there's better Pokemon varieties, and, you know, the RNG seems to be more in your favor considered, you know, because, like, in Pokemon Go, you have to go, like, to certain destinations, but at the same time, though, the Pokemon that, you know, do eventually show up aren't always necessarily the ones you want. So it's kind of really luck-based, but at the same time, getting to the Pokemon is kind of hard, because the whole concept is you're supposed to move around to get it. Not saying that I'm lazy or inactive, but rather it's just that it doesn't really seem to be towards the player's advantage. Another problem I had with the game was that, you know, I mean, okay, it makes sense that you have to go to, like, the Pokemarks and all that, but I mean, like, you essentially, like, if you were out in the middle of nowhere, essentially, then you were essentially out of luck, because you either that or you had to go online and pay, like, I don't know exactly how much money it was just to get more Pokeballs, but that was the gimmick. It was essentially to get people's money that way. I mean, you want to talk about, like, how, you know, I heard a lot of people complain about how Game Freak, you know, with the whole people have to pay for Pokebank and all that. But at the same time, it's like, you know, I mean, as far as the company goes with Pokemon, you know, Pokemon Go was technically a failure in some aspects because a lot of people, like, they never updated the servers as much. That's another major issue. So a lot of people, like, you know, they keep getting all these issues, like for example, like when the updates came out, you know, for it. It just, there'd be people were just getting shot offline every now and again. It said, oh, you've been disconnected from this, you've been disconnected from that, drained your battery. And there was, like, firmware update glitches, and, you know, I mean, it was a game that probably, like, it was designed to sell, essentially. Like, the game designers kind of started off, like, working on it really seriously, but then they just kind of said, well, you know what, seeing how we've made this much money, it's just going to be whenever we feel like updating it. And if they have, that's really all it turned out to be. But as far as Pokemon Go goes, the reason why essentially it became what it was, though, was because it was the timing of it. Because Sun and Moon wasn't out yet, and people have already completed, like a good portion of people completed Pokemon Alpha, Sapphire, and Omega Ruby, and it was only a matter of time before Sun and Moon came out, and those were the games that people really wanted, but it wasn't going to be out for like another year. So Pokemon Sun and Moon came out 1 year later, but by then all these other people were playing Pokemon Go, You see, that was the thing that really got me, though. You know, Pokemon Go might have had a net worth of over $1 billion, but then I can't imagine how many refunds, like, Nintendo literally had to refund people. So wait, no, I guess I technically answered my question, and that, you know, maybe Nintendo did turn around and give them the rights to do it. Because that was weird, because I just think it's crazy how, like, a company can make that much money off a game, especially a spin-off game, which... It'd be like saying, like, the ROM hacks with the Nintendo games. Like, there's people like Pokemon Uranium and Pokemon Prism, for example. That'd be like saying that somebody could make a ROM hack even better than the original Pokemon games without even having to try. And how cool that would be. And there have been people that have done that. But anyways, the way I look at it, you know, Pokemon Go, you know, it could have been a great game. And in some ways it is, but it could have been even better, though. Because it's mostly technical hardware. You know, like take James Roll, for example, the guy who, you know, the angry video game nerd. You know, all the games he reviewed. One of the major points, he said that the games that he reviews, the games that are bad, were because people, like, they rushed them, or they didn't try to make a game. They just try to capitalize on success, you know, like quantity over quality. Rather than putting so much time and energy into one product, they try to sell, at least in bad condition, as many copies to try and make money. Makes sense at first, but then you realize that that's not really the best way to do it. But, you know, and it's the same thing with Pokemon Go. I mean, you know, I'm sure it's a fun game, but it could have, like I said, though, it could have been even better if, you know, it didn't face technical glitches, and the hardware was there, and the people that actually programmed the game actually really cared like they say they do. You know, they could definitely do better, and I most certainly believe that Pokemon Go is, if it wasn't for the fact that people kind of cared about it, it wouldn't really be around anymore. But really, at the same time, though, the way I look at it, it's just going to live its life and then pass away, just like all the other games. But then, you know, people could always go back to it, though. But again, as long as people can't play the game, then they'll just go back to Sun and Moon. And, you know, again, most people are playing Sun and Moon. If it wasn't for the, like, think of it like this. If it wasn't for the fact that Pokebank's not out yet and people can't transfer their damn Pokemon over right now, most people would still be playing Sun and Moon right now. If people are still not playing Pokemon Go. Just to put it in perspective, because I don't know why Game Freak's, like, delaying it. I mean, I know they're probably fixing something, but if they're using the same data from the Pokebank, what exactly are they doing waiting for then? Because I mean, I'm curious. I'm not trying to rush them, but I'm just curious. Like, why is it taking them so long? They've already been working on it for like 3 months, almost, and well, mostly 2. Pokemon Sun and Moon came out, oh geez, 2 months ago actually. I'm just thinking, you know, what exactly did they do that Pokebank's not out yet, but you know, if it doesn't come out, it's gonna come out anywhere between now or the first end quarter of March. So that's what I've heard from people, but hopefully it'll be soon, because I already completed the Pokedex and I really would like to at least get the other legendaries. That'd be cool. But anyways, I'm going to leave it to you guys with this, okay? You know, the only reason Pokemon Go essentially became what it was because of luck. And the game designers, essentially, the developers really just, you know, they only did it to make a profit. They became successful, good for them, but at the same time they had to refund people a lot of money because it wasn't really something people were wanting to feel so confident in. You know, they put a lot of, like, they paid towards something, but then people, like, were demanding refunds because, like, something to do with, like, the iPhone version or something like that wasn't good, and people weren't just going to take this one lying down or something like that. So the way I look at it, Pokemon Go could have been a lot better, but it just could have, but the reason the game designers did what they did was because, again, it was just designed to sell, and that's essentially what it became. So they took their earnings and kind of headed off with it. So comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share this video. If you guys agree with this, what do you guys think about Pokemon Go? What do you think about it will happen to it in the future? And do you think there's a future for it? Or do you think it's just a dead fade that somehow got lucky and it's only a matter of time before it bites the dust?